Hi friends, Quill here, back with another update to the hashtag Dexit conundrum. Before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button down below if you'd like to see some more Pokemon Sword and Shield news videos just like this one. I think I might try to get a little bit more into the hype now that we're getting closer to the actual games. As a channel, I don't like to cover things that aren't necessarily confirmed, so this is something that I consider to be relatively legitimate. There aren't any wild assumptions. This is strictly based on numbers and facts that we know, which is why I like it and why I'm covering it today. But while we're on the topic of leaks and fake rumors and those sorts of things, why don't you comment down below and let me know which rumor you've seen that appeals to you the most. Of course, the Ben Affleck leaks are pretty well confirmed at this point, but my favorite rumor is that Scorbunny will evolve into a fire and electric type. I think that'd be really cool in a starter Pokemon. Let me know down in the comments. So we're gonna go ahead and get into this one. For those of you who follow A-Drive over on his channel, he already did coverage of this, and this is how I found this article. It's over on Nintendo Soup, and it claims that the Pokemon Sword and Shield guidebook suggests that there will be 500 Pokemon in the Galar Pokedex. If you've been following my channel, you know that we've been going through each of the generations and sort of guessing which Pokemon will be included in the Galar Pokedex and which ones won't. So this has very big implications for that series. And before we get into what this really means for our series, I'm going to go ahead and look really fast at what this article has to say. So it says that, as you know, not all Pokemon are going to make it into the Pokemon Sword and Shield. While Game Freak has remained tight-lipped about which Pokemon will be cut from the games, the official Galar Region Pokedex guidebook has given us a clue. According to the Amazon listing, the official Galar Region Pokedex guidebook has 448 pages. That's about 58% of the number of the pages in the National Dex guidebook, and each page contains about 1 to 2 Pokemon, and so not including Mega Evolutions, they're ballparking about 500 Pokemon will be in the new games. And then they go on to say that assuming that the National Dex contains about 900 new Pokemon, that would mean that about 45% will not be in the new games. If you watched A-Drive's video, then you've already seen this graphic also. It tells the number of Pokemon in each of the regional Pokedexes. Here we see around Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Diamond and Pearl. We dip around 151. 150 is a really low number, but then you get up to the more recent games like XY and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, you get up above 400. So 500 is definitely not out of the possibility. In fact, I think that might be a pretty low number considering that they're cutting out a bunch of Pokemon. But something else that I think is really important for us to look at is the number of new Pokemon that each generation has added. And we can look over here on Bulbapedia for that. We see obviously the original 151 Pokemon in Generation 1, then 100 added in 2, 135 in Generation 3. Generation 4 went back down to 107, but then we shoot back up to 156 in Generation 5. Then, of course, Generation 6 and 7, we saw a tailoring of the new Pokemon, focus more on quality over quantity. We cut back down to 72 in Generation 6 and 88 in Generation 7. I think given that people are very, very upset about Dexit, we'll see very similar low numbers of new Pokemon in the Galar region, like we saw in Generation 6 and Generation 7. Will it be as low as 72? I don't know. But it's also interesting to point out that the number of Pokemon people are kind of assuming that we'll get up to is around 900. And that, we can see here, would bring us to a grand total of 91 Pokemon in the new generation, which I think is a very believable number. But then when we go back to our original page that says that there are going to be 500 at least Pokemon, that leaves 409 from older generations. Hi friends, I actually am editing this video currently, and I decided to go back and look at graphing the Pokemon that each generation has introduced, and I wanted to look really fast at what kind of function we're looking at. I doubt it'll be linear because that'll obviously goes to 0. Not to get too mathy on people who aren't particularly mathy people, but if we look at the logarithmic function for the amount of Pokemon that have been in, plugging Generation 8 into this function gives that we will have about 95 Pokemon in the upcoming games. So there's no guarantee, obviously, that they'll follow a mathematical trend. That's not believable at all, but if the trend that they're following continues in a logarithmic way, we'll end up with 95 new Pokemon in the new generation, which I think I allude to later on in the video as being a pretty reasonable guess. So for now, I'm going to assume that we're going to have 95 Pokemon in the new game, which of course means that about half of the Pokemon that we saw in previous generations will be returning to the Galar region. I think that's kind of a bold claim, but like I said, I think that 500 Pokemon estimate is a really low number. I think it'll be closer to 600 or 700 total. And while I think we're all really excited to see a bunch of old Pokemon come back, I think that such a high number for a regional Pokedex has a lot of bad implications for things like competitive battling. One of the most important things in competitive breeding and battling is, of course, IVs, and the capability to check IVs, at least in the last generation, didn't come until you'd reached the entire Alola Pokedex. If that's the case in the Galar region, that's going to be nearly twice as many Pokemon that we're going to have to catch before we can even check the IVs. And then, of course, there's the whole process of breeding perfect Pokemon to then battle with. And while that's not a hard stop for the competitive scene, it definitely hinders the ability to quickly get to the point where you can battle. And I don't know about you guys, I enjoy playing Pokemon games, the storylines, I enjoy them to an extent, but I play Pokemon for the more competitive aspect of it. And once Sword and Shield come out and I can get some competitively viable Pokemon into that game, I hope to show you a little bit of that with some Wi-Fi battles maybe. By the way, you should subscribe if you like Wi-Fi battles because I plan to upload those pretty regularly once the new games come out. But that big regional Pokedex number really is an impediment to people who want to very quickly get to competitive battling. Of course, you have to consider how hard it will be to catch each of these Pokemon. In Sun and Moon, it was a little bit difficult to get some of the Pokemon for the Pokedex, so I guess we'll just have to see how easy it is to fill the Pokedex this time through. So yeah, that is about it for this rumor. 500, like I said, is a low number for what I expect for the new generation's Pokedex, but even then here they say that it's at least 500 Pokemon. So again, I think we're going to see around the 600 Pokemon range. I think that's doable. I think that's attainable. Again, it has some negative implications for competitive battling and how easy that's going to be, as well as shiny hunting, although that really isn't my jive quite so much. Getting the shiny charm, of course, in the last generation, you also had to fill up the entire Alola Pokedex if that's the region, if that's the case again. But overall, I really am excited for these games, and I'm excited to see which Pokemon do and don't make it. I really hope that they don't cut some of my favorites, but if I'm being totally honest, most of my favorites are already confirmed for the game. So let me know down in the comments below what you think of this theory that we'll have at least 500 Pokemon, and let me know if you think that number's too low or too high. And above all, tell me what you're most excited for these games. I think that a lot of the leaks and rumors have concepts that are really cool for stories, and I'm going to be very let down if the story is not as good as some of these people are imagining that it will be. But that will do it for today, my friends. I just wanted to kind of discuss this theory with you, see what you had to think. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. But other than that, my friends, as always, see you next time.